On board, we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 15th regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Present.
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 Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's meeting, we will have 4 public hearings, followed by a public portion where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. And then we have resolutions to be offered by council members. Carol, if you'd please read the first. I'm sorry, we have our town historian here, Hugh King. And you're not even in the obscured seats.
Yeah, I know. Hi, I just want to comment that the history fair was wonderful. There were so many organizations that showed up to display their wares, and I don't think we have to wait 25 years to do that again. Also, on June 29th, I will be at the East Hampton Library with Andrea Meyer, the great archivist, and we will be talking about Mrs. Ruth Benjamin, who was the first hostess at Home Sweet Home Museum. And then on July 20th, I'll be at the Fisher House in Montauk, and we're going to be talking about Arthur Benson. Now, we've covered a lot of these things already at the town board level, but we'll be adding more. Okay.
So could you give times? June 29th?
Yes, at the library on the 29th, it's 5:30, and at the Fisher House, it's 7 o'clock. And I see you've just hung a wonderful quilt from the Montauk School out there, and also there are town records on the window out there that you can look, and one of them shows you know where the Baker House is on Main Street? Well, it shows that Daniel Howe was selling that to Thomas Baker in 1650. It's right out there. And that's all I have to say. There's no homework. I will be making some reports because I'm a little behind, okay? And we will wait with the Councilwoman Overby. She has the John Howard Payne, Mary Shelley scandal, but we can wait on that, okay, until she gets back. All right? Thank you.
Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you, Hugh. Carol, if you'd please read the COVID notice and the first public hearing notice.
The public hearings will be held live and in person by the town board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent, by attorney, or by call-in to the live stream, or by written comment addressed to the East Hampton Town Clerk, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton. Comments may also be submitted to the town clerk by email to cbrennan@ehamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the town clerk by the date and time of the public hearing. Please check the meeting agenda posted on the town's website for any changes and for updated information. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 15th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, to consider a local law, an abstract of which follows. A local law entitled, a local law amending chapter 255 zoning related to affordable accessory apartments, including amendments to 255-120 definitions, apartment or residence, 255-550 specific standards and safeguards, apartments with commercial structures, 255-1163, affordable accessory apartments, general requirements, 255-1163B, site requirements, 255-1163C, permits required, 255-1163E, issuance of an affordable accessory apartment permit, conditions, leases, fees, 255-1163F, lease, 255-1163G, occupancy requirements, and 255-1163H, design requirements to amend provisions related to affordable accessory apartments, varying the requirements to add such an apartment to the property within the town of East Hampton, as well as the qualifications for those desiring to occupy such premises. The town last updated affordable apartment regulations through a pilot program in 2016 that succeeded in creating nearly 50 affordable housing units, roughly half the total allowed under the program. After detailed review of the code, surveys of community members and organizations, and an updated assessment of housing needs within the community, the town is seeking to simplify the application process and code regulating affordable apartments, as well as to allow for a total of up to 200 total units throughout the town.
Thank you, Carol. We have our planning director, Jeremy Samuelson, who will give us just a brief a synopsis and overview. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, members of the board. I understand that somebody's birthday, so happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
Tried not to say who, just,
I would try not to give it away.
yeah, all right. Well, sorry. I think we blew each other's cover there. Apologies. All right. Good morning, members of the board. I will just give a very brief overview of this and then step back so that the public and the board can engage around the specifics of this. Going back to 1980, the town has had legislation on the books that allow for one form or another of affordable accessory apartments. There have been iterations of this that have been added or changed over time, most recently in 2016. I think we are fair in saying at this point that the need for affordable housing has become a defining characteristic of our community. Sadly, there is no aspect of commerce or life in East Hampton town that is not impacted by or defined by the crushing need for affordable housing. There is no exchange of goods or services that happens in this community that is not impacted directly by the need for affordable housing. We have, as you all have acknowledged over time, to identify multiple solutions. One of the solutions that you have asked the planning board and the community to engage around is what are commonly referred to as accessory dwelling units or affordable accessory apartments under our code. What you have in front of you today is a expansion of the existing program to, in broad terms, go from 100 units that are allowed under the code to a doubling to 200 units. This is, I think, fairly described as a modest step in the direction of dealing with this very big problem. I would continue to describe this as a pilot program that the town is trying to, once again, apologies for torturing this analogy, adjust the dials on as we move forward. So we have had now at least 4 work session conversations where you all have asked for modifications to that reflect input you have received from the planning board in their thoughtful commentary about this, as well as public input. A draft environmental assessment form, or excuse me, not a draft, but rather an environmental assessment form was prepared in response to this proposal as it currently sits in front of you. That was prepared by our department on April 20th and made available to you and the public at that time. So it's been out there for about 2 months now. And I will just read for you a very quick summary of highlights associated with this proposal. Give me 1 second to get to that page. So this actual legislation, the proposed adjustments to Chapter 255, would amend the percentage of, well, let me put this differently. The definition of an affordable housing unit is, it would be amended to identify it as being 130% of the fair market rent as opposed to 110%. This basically, in lay terms, is how much can be charged for. We have discussed this at length, but I wanted to name it here this morning as part of the legislation that's being considered. Permits for affordable accessory apartments in basements of commercial structures would also be formally allowed under this particular legislation. The increase, this would also propose to increase the permitted number of affordable accessory apartments from 20 within each school district to 40. This was the change from 100 total to 200 total that I referenced a moment ago. In addition, this would permit affordable accessory apartments in detached structures on lots up to 20,000 square feet or roughly half an acre, whereas the prior iteration of this legislation required a minimum lot area of 30,000 square feet or roughly 3/4 of an acre. This would also adjust the conditions in terms of the lease for affordable accessory apartments with an eye towards simplifying the initial application process and the annual renewal process. Just to be clear, anyone who is legally in receipt of permission to put one of these into their home after a application process is required to come back on an annual basis and recertify that they still meet all of the criteria and it is still being rented as an affordable unit at a price that is disclosed and understood and meets the criteria of the maximum 130% that I described earlier. The final change that I will point out for you is that this additionally permits affordable accessory apartments within residences, which it already did, but now that affordable accessory apartment can occupy up to 50% of the square footage of the principal structure. So just want to point that out for you as well. This is basically a summary of the broad strokes of the legislation. The goal here is to create more units and get more people in. I'll now step aside and let you and the public share whatever comments you would like.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do we have a sign-up list for speakers today? Does anyone here wish to address the board on this particular hearing? Jane?
Good morning. Jane Meering, 32 Ocean Lane, Amagansett. But before I start, happy birthday, whichever it is. And also, this is the first time I'm up speaking since you made the announcement about Councilwoman Overby. So if she's listening, I just want to say prayers and good thoughts and wishing speedy recovery. So I'm back today to speak at this public hearing. I've appeared twice before you in two of the last public hearing iterations. And I just want to say, for the record, I think you know this, but somehow I got swept up in an article in one of the papers as, being among the people opposing legislation. So I just want to say again, I favor this legislation, the concept, appreciate all the work that the board and the planning department has done. But I just want to come back quickly on 2 points. First, I want to come back on something I already spoke about, but I just wanted to try and reiterate it again. I remain a bit concerned or confounded by a 1,200 square foot maximum apartment with 2 bedrooms in a commercial structure. I still think that there's a more efficient and productive way to create more affordable capacity when these are being built in commercial structures. So I just wanted to reiterate again, a rethinking potentially of number of bedrooms versus size in commercial. Number 2, I want to come back on the issue, just a broad issue of affordability, right? So 255-550 which I don't think has been touched as a part of or adjusted as a part of this changes. All dwelling units created shall be for the use of and available to moderate income families who are certified as such on an annual basis, et cetera. So I just wanted to confirm that that still stands for commercial, that all tenants in commercial affordable apartments are certified as on an income basis as being eligible for affordable housing. Again, it still is in 255-550. I didn't see you making a change, but I've heard some back and forth about whether that side of the equation, the certifying has been happening. So I wanted to stress the need for that. And then look more on the residential ADU side from through the same lens, 255-550 7F says, any other condition deemed reasonable and necessary to ensure the immediate and long-term success of the apartment and helping meet identified housing needs in communities complied with. Now, again, this is about commercial, but I'm still not quite understanding people who will occupy ADUs on residential property. I know sometimes it's for family members or such, but I'm still hoping that there can be a way of making that inventory partially available to people in our community who really need affordable housing. We have, I think, 800 people on waiting lists, for town owned. So I just wanted to come back on that and hope that there can be some screening of income in residential, and also maybe have a vetted list from those waiting lists that are put priority to go into affordable apartments in commercial or even possibly residential structures. So those are my comments.
Great. Thank you very much, Jane. Anyone else wish to address the board this time? David?
Good morning, David Buda from the Springs. Although it's been in existence for a long time, the existing program of allowing affordable accessory apartments within single-family residential zoned areas really has not been a resounding success. The town board needs to focus on the creation of new rental apartments in areas that are appropriately zoned for the creation of residential apartments. And you have done some of that. You're doing it. You're continuing to do it. Route 114 is near Sag Harbor, 3 Mile Harbor Road, in Amagansett, et cetera. That's where the real result occurs in terms of providing affordable housing for young people, new people, working people in the town who need reasonably priced housing. So let there be no misunderstanding that any affordable accessory apartment in a single-family residential zone is a significant change to the longstanding and sound zoning principles that created single-family residential zoning. So we have to be somewhat circumspect and reticent to increase those numbers unless it's working. The original limited experiment allowed 100 affordable accessory apartments to be created with the expectation that they would be spread around equally to all 5 school districts. This did not happen. The Springs and East Hampton school districts, of course, have been burdened with a large number of these units, whereas Wainscott, Amagansett, and Montauk, not so much or not at all, unless you can include in Wainscott the 1 unit that was turned into an Airbnb. Einstein is credited with stating that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result to occur is the definition of madness. Here, the town board is intent on doubling the number of allowed affordable accessory apartments, but it is sheer madness to expect the increase in numbers to result in full participation of Wainscott, Amagansett, and Montauk. So the burdens that increased density and increased numbers will fall upon the Springs and East Hampton hamlets primarily. There are many changes being made, proposed to be changed to the program. My suggestion, number 1, is do not increase the number. Make the other changes in terms of the rental limits and various other detailed changes, but don't change the number yet. Wait and see whether this creates inducement or enhancement and reason for people to create such apartments throughout the town. Number 2, as far as I know, the town has not yet accepted and reviewed the proposed draft environmental study. The environmental assessment form that was prepared and presented to you has not, to my recollection, been reviewed and discussed and accepted. If you look at it in detail, the one provision here that I'm most concerned about, the one that would allow a detached structure to have an affordable accessory apartment in a single-family zone that has a lot that has area of no more than 20,000 square feet, that there's no justification or real analysis in the environmental assessment form concerning that. All it basically says is it's easier, it's more convenient, it's less confusing if we allow affordable accessory apartments in detached units in the same size properties as for attached units. Well, that's really no analysis. That's no explanation. That's no study of the septic concerns that should be raised when you have a detached structure allowed to create an apartment, a dwelling unit on a small property. You really haven't analyzed that, and you should. There are two provisions in this proposal that would purport to allow the town board in the future to make changes to it by resolution. I think it has to do with the number of units that can be occupied by non-primary residents and non-year-round residents. It's my understanding that the town board does not have the power to zone by resolution, and therefore those provisions are outside of your power to enact. Also, I think that it would be prudent, in light of the experience over the years, to enact a provision that prohibits this town board and the zoning board in the future from granting any waivers or any variances of the pertinent provisions of the code. The ZBA has, in my opinion, mistakenly interpreted the area size limitation as a area variance instead of a use variance, and has considered and even granted some AAAs to undersized properties. That's a power that the ZBA should not have. And this board has, in the past, on at least 2 occasions I'm aware of, granted a waiver to allow the creation of an affordable accessory apartment within an affordable house. Well, you are all aware, if the public's aware, the history of this legislation has resulted in the town board now cutting back on the planned expansion of the AAA program into areas of the affordable housing zoning and water recharge or water overlay districts because of the concerns by the planning board that increasing density in an area where you've already increased density, such as in an affordable housing zoning area, is really contrary to the environmental concerns of the town. So you should not yourselves in the future grant waivers, and the ZBA should not have the power to alter and to consider maybe even a 10,000 square foot property being allowed to have a detached affordable accessory apartment. And lastly, I'm going to say that the focus of affordable accessory apartments should be for town residents, town workers, or at least in the nearby community, not for short-term seasonal workers. Any aspect of this that is designed to, and there are some, that's designed to facilitate and permit the use of the affordable accessory apartments by short-term seasonal workers is really not the purpose that you should be following. Let the employers deal with those problems. There is one more thing I should mention. I don't think it's smart to allow an owner of a property that builds an accessory affordable apartment, either attached or detached, to also have the right to continue to have, in a single family zoning, up to 2 guest rooms for boarders. What you really would have there is almost more of a commercial setting rather than a residential setting. To have 2 rooms, guest rooms as we call them, everyone should know that in this town and in resort communities such as ourselves, we allow an owner who is owner occupied, who resides there, to rent up to 2 bedrooms to people, and up to 2 people total, to live there on a short-term basis. And that provides a certain amount of housing stock for short-term vacationers and renters and short-term employees in this community. But to allow that in addition to an affordable accessory apartment, which could be as large as 1,200 square feet and have 2 additional bedrooms, is really a perversion of the single-family residential zoning to an extent that I don't think you should allow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wish to address the board? Excuse me. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Yes, sir. Could you
Hi,
just
good
please
morning.
state your name for the record?
Hi, good morning. Gregory Monaco. I currently have an accessory apartment. all these new changes are welcoming and I think well needed, a lot of them. I don't see the purpose necessarily in restricting to square footage as a maximum. I can understand a minimum. You don't want people living in below standard living, but we have pyramid laws, we have setbacks, we have all these other regulations and bedroom size. If it's 4 bedrooms, a unit, we figure 2 people for each bedroom at a maximum. I mean, those rules and regulations, I believe, are already set forth in New York State Code. To overthink it, whether it's a detached garage or a detached apartment, or it's part of the structure, as long as it falls within the existing setbacks, pyramid laws and all that things, and septics, regulations based on bedroom size, I don't see why that should be a concern to restrict people from having to a limit on how big the apartment is. I can understand a limit on how small the apartment is, whether it's 50% or 30%, but the more space someone is able to have at an affordable rate, I think is beneficial for them. And I don't understand necessarily the restriction on that. I was just hoping the board might, want to consider, not restricting people from living in a more spacious apartment or something like that. Though that doesn't pertain to my circumstances, I would hope that people would be able to live in a larger apartment as they can afford within the affordable accessory. And if it meets the criteria of bedroom size, whether it's 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, as long as it falls within the parameters of what is already set forth in the pyramid and setbacks in town code, I don't see why it'd have to be 50% or 30%, as long as no additional bedrooms are being created or something like that. The other thing that I'd like to mention to the board is a lot of people are working at home now since the pandemic, and a lot of people have their businesses from home. And I believe one of the things it says is you cannot have a business out of a home with an accessory apartment. And with today's day and age and everybody moving out, some people may want to have a business out of their home. And that's something maybe we could consider with the accessory apartment, because a lot of people do make their money online now. And that's it.
Thank you so much for coming in today, Greg. Anyone else wish to address the board? We'll go to the telephones. Jason, do we have any callers on the line?
We have no callers on the line.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Carol, if you read the next hearing notice, please.
Take notice that the town board of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing pursuant to chapter 232 urban renewal of the town code of the town of East Hampton, section 232-170, modification of urban renewal plans in the meeting room, town hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on June 15th at 11 a.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the following modification of urban renewal map. Renewal parcel URP number 27 from Gardner's Lane off President Street at a southerly end of the parcel to Gardner's Lane off its intersection with Washington Street at a northerly end of the parcel. And urban renewal parcel number 27 in SP 4-2, relocate access to UR parcel number 27 from the southerly side of the parcel at Gardner's Lane at the intersection with President Street to the northerly side of the parcel off the intersection of Washington Street and Gardner's Lane, as shown on the sketch proposed old file map study, map number 16, section 1, Montauk View, Springs, SP 4-2.
Thank you, Carol. Jeremy, do we have a map that you presented? Is there anyone who wishes to address this particular public hearing? Andy?
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, member of the board. You might recall that this board has considered this application before.
Andy, could you just introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Richard A. Hammer, and I'm here from Biondo and Hammer LLP in Montauk. I represent the owner of the property. As I mentioned, you guys had considered this before. What was missing from that original consideration was the applicant. Basically, we had applied, paid the fee. We're not notified of the hearing. So I appreciate you guys having the opportunity for us to come and address the board, because I think it's an important process. As you are aware, the urban renewal map was adopted by the town in 1976. It was essentially adopted under the provisions of our state code to eliminate urban blight, basically, which is kind of a strange thing. In 1976, we did not have any urban blight, but it provided a necessary police power for the town to act. Essentially, what we were trying to do in 1976 was eliminate the small lots as well as the road access that would have created a gridlock areas of the town that were going to be excessively paved. What the urban renewal map does is try to progress, combine lots, create access, and to eliminate these gridded roads. What it didn't contemplate was town acquisition of adjacent vacant properties. And that's kind of part of this application. I'm going to basically cede most of my discussion to Joel, who's more familiar with the nuts and bolts of how we got here. But this application was in fact created by a building permit that was issued to the applicant that didn't require the proper access. The pool was constructed, the garage was constructed pursuant to the building permit in a manner that makes it very difficult to comply with the urban renewal map and its access provision. I think it was an honest mistake, and the requested modification is entirely consistent with the purposes and the powers granted to the town board to adopt the urban renewal plan and its standards. It's kind of a unique standard, but essentially it has to go back to the reason we did this was to require development of, aggregate the lots and provide for safe and efficient access. The other thing I want to point out is this modification was approved by the planning board after hearings that I was actually at. That's in your file. So there is a memorandum from the planning board supporting this modification. And I think there's considerations that we should bring to your attention that hopefully Joel will be able to address now. If you would call him next, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Joel.
Good morning, Supervisor Van Scoyac and town board members. Joel Halsey on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, here on behalf of the property owner. I'd like to thank the board immensely for allowing us the time to revisit this UR modification request. I feel when all is said and done, this will benefit the town and help the property owner. This request is an atypical request to address an unusual situation on a road that is far from typical. As can be witnessed by the UR map, you can enter Gardner's from Springs Fireplace Road and from 3 Mile Harbor Road. The road is not a straight line, is not continuous, and has 3, possibly 4 dead ends on it. From 3 Mile Harbor Road, the point where this property is located, Gardner's, the point where if you take access from 3 Mile Harbor Road, the property is located, Gardner's turns in a southerly direction for 160 feet. Before it turns back in an easterly direction onto Gardner's Lane. Again, this is not a continuous road and is essentially dead ends just before you get to the subject property. It is our contention that the access from 3 Mile Harbor Road to this property is superior in many respects, including emergency response, and the planning board has supported our contentions in this. Were you to navigate to this site, for instance, it will from GPS, it will access you from 3 Mile Harbor Road. At least that's what it did for me. Please note the building permit that was issued depicted this very same access. Unfortunately, during the permitting process, everyone, including the town, was unaware that the access was to be from the southerly side of the property. Prior to getting a building permit, I did visit the property and I did enter 59 Gardner's into my GPS, and I was directed to Gardner's Lane via 3 Mile Harbor. Being that it dead ended at approximately at this property, I believe that this was the property and the correct access. Furthermore, if you try to access from this property from Gardner's Lane off Springs Fireplace Road, you cannot. Gardner's Lane dead ends into a private property, and this is the second dead end along Gardner's Lane. What would happen if there was an emergency on this property? It is not a simple task to find this property via Springs Fireplace Road. The third dead end would be if you were to make a right off President's onto Gardner's Lane, the road also dead ends. And technically making a left off President's could be considered a fourth dead end on this one street. So here we are. I was hired to get a building permit on this property. I believe all the board members have seen the survey that I was given and approved, and the approved sanitary design for the building permit purposes. These are the plans the building permit was issued on. This was an unfortunate oversight, but one that will work in the town's favor in the end. Work began on the foundation as proposed on the building permit. The foundation was poured and the garage was built in the location that would make most sense if you were to access the property from the northern portion of Gardner's Lane. This was not a nefarious act by a sophisticated builder. This was an honest mistake made on the design level, permitting level, and on the town level. Nobody bothered to check the UR map for the access point. The fix in this case is simple, and there is no benefit to the other than an access to the property that works with the existing residence as it is built. In fact, the concessions proposed benefit the town in the end more than the property owner. Had this been sorted prior to the installation of the foundation, then the house could possibly have been modified to rotate 180 degrees and take access as depicted on the UR maps. If access was taken out from there, then the concessions as described next would not have been required, thus losing a well-used trail link between the two Gardner's Lanes. During the planning board meetings, it was discussed that this area could contain a trail easement that would allow Gardner's Lane to remain connected to Gardner's Lane. The property owner is willing to leave a 4-foot wide path to keep this connection. If this modification is not approved, the small access path that was always within this area will be destroyed. As the board is aware, there's an existing trail that goes from Gardner's Lane off 3 Mile Harbor through the town property, through this property, back onto Gardner's Lane as it goes to Springs Fireplace Road.
Excuse me, gentlemen, could you take your conversation outside, please? Thank you.
The only connection of these two Gardners is through the private property of 59 Gardner. I've emailed the board pictures of the trail. If we get this modification, we could place an easement over half the width of the length of the road abandonment to maintain this connection. This is the road abandonment that has been filed and is within, it is completed. So this road abandonment is 20 foot wide. We would put an easement over the southern half and the western half of this abandonment for 10 feet, which would allow for the 4-foot wide access. Then we could have the 12-foot access as depicted on the map prepared by the town. And as you can see, well, the math isn't on there, but I did the math. Half of that abandonment is 2,636 square feet, where we're requesting and proposal for our access would be 1,915 square feet. This maintains the access between both Gardner's Lanes and allows for access from the Gardner's Lane Springs Fireplace Road to the Gardner's Lane off 3 Mile Harbor Road, which would allow access to the town-owned parcel of 59 Gardner if this was ever to be used as a trailer park in the future. Otherwise, this access is terminated. This is a win-win situation for the town and benefits the property owner. Please note, this was not some malicious plan hatched by the property owner. Nobody, including the town, checked the UR map access point. It was a simple mistake that has an easy remedy. Board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions for Joel? Thank you, Joel. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board this time? David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, David.
Good morning, David Buda. I've prepared a letter incorporating prior comments that I've made to the planning board and to this board at your work session, and I would ask that the clerk make it part of the record for this proceeding. I listened to the presentation by Mr. Hammer and Mr. Halsey, and frankly, I'm amazed. It just is not, half of what he said is just not true. I am fully familiar with all prior planning board and town board proceedings concerning this matter, including your discussions at the work session meetings of April 4th and April 11th. At the conclusion of the April 11th meeting, the 4 town board members present unanimously indicated that none of the various proposed urban renewal map modifications being reviewed were found to be acceptable. Several town board members clearly stated their opinion that you should decline to modify the existing UR map. Furthermore, in response to my Freedom of Information law request, I've been informed by Mr. Jolnicki that the only map modification being pursued by the applicant at this time is the original proposal, which was previously found to be unacceptable by both the planning board and the town board. The planning board made a proposal of several alternatives, none of which can be implemented because the owner, developer, sophisticated builder has clear cut the entire 20-foot width of all of the land that they have acquired by road abandonment. First, let me point out that the applicant's proposal would enable the applicant to unilaterally force the town to allow a proposed extension of Gardner's Lane to connect to the northwest corner of the subject property. This would entail converting public land into a long private driveway that would bisect 2 town-owned open space parcels and effectively usurp the town's right to abandon and take full ownership of the 40-foot wide paper street that is adjacent to both town parcels. This would negate the town's rights under the provisions of the existing UR map. It's highly relevant that the applicant's, a limited liability company, is a highly experienced, sophisticated builder developer that is simultaneously building 3 nearly identical new homes in the Springs at 59 Gardner's Lane, 4 Squaw Road, and 40 Lincoln Avenue, and plans to build 2 more at 33 Delavan Street and 42 Lincoln Street. The only apparent exterior differences between these cookie cutter housing models is that some of them differ as to which side of the structure the garage is located. If they had only built this house, like the one at 4 Squaw Road, none of this would be relevant. None of this would be an issue. The developer, the managing member, Mr. Tusi, should have understood that the opening of an unopened roadway requires explicit approval by the town planning board, the building department, and the town consulting engineer, none of which approvals the builder obtained. When the initial building permit, and this is crucial because it's so diametrically opposed to what Mr. Halsey has been telling you. When the initial building permit was applied for, in or about July of 2021, the building department promptly notified the applicant that its plan to access the subject property from the northwest by using and improving an unopened paper street in a manner that conflicts with the existing old file map study plan was unacceptable. The proposed Walbridge survey dated July 17, 2021 was not accepted by the building department. Instead, a marked up survey was prepared by the building department and provided to the applicant's representatives, I don't know which one, to document the fact that the only permitted building lot vehicular access was to be taken from the southeast corner of the subject property where it intersects with a portion of Gardner's Lane and President Street. The portion of President Street, by the way, that the applicant was required by the town consulting engineer and the planning board to improve, and he has done so as his roadway assignment, was to prepare and to make better the access to the property from the southeast corner. Exhibit A to the document I provided to you is an email exchange that occurred between me and Ann Glennon, the now retired former principal building inspector, dated November 24th, 2021. She responded to my concerns when I saw some clearing occurring. She stated, this has already been looked into and they were made aware of that they need to take access onto Gardner's Lane and only over their property, which they can abandon. See the marked up survey in our file. She gave it to me. I've given it to you. I gave it to you before. If you want, folks, I can give it to you guys as well.
Yeah, we'd like a copy.
Sure. Sure. No error was made by the building department in the issuance of the building permit. The only mistake made was there was an inability of the professionals retained by Brooklyn Timber LLC to properly read the town's old filed map study plan and recognize that the one and only lawful vehicle access to the subject property existed. And that was from the southeast corner of the subject property, from its intersection with President Street and a portion of Gardens Lane. Thereafter, the Ordinance Enforcement Department issued a stop work order and terminated all construction vehicle access from the north, thereby barring improper crossing of town-owned land. It must be noted that the UR map modification has been, the map that is before you, which is dated November 29, 2022, is woefully out of date and does not reflect the correct current site conditions and legal boundaries of the subject property. In accordance with the provisions of the town code on urban renewal 232, the applicant did submit a road abandonment application to the town assessor's office, which I understand was approved back in November. The county agency, called the Real Property Tax Service Agency, completed the road abandonment process by issuing its 101 form on March 30th, and I've attached that as an exhibit. That shows the current correct tax map configuration, whereby approximately 20 feet on the entire western side and southern side of the subject property has been incorporated into the property. The completed road abandonment process has expanded the applicant's deeded property along both those western and southern boundaries, and has substantially increased the size and value of the property. Furthermore, the applicant's November 2022 urban UR modification map, the one that's before you, the only one that's before you, shows a line of proposed clearing that does not reflect the fact that currently nearly all the land area newly acquired by the road abandonment process has been clear cut and made into a fully functional vehicular access, which is in use. Photographs are attached as Exhibit C. To conclude, the requested UR map modification is unnecessary, superfluous, would be contrary to the interests of the local community, and allow a developer to create a long, cleared, private driveway that would bisect and disrupt the benefits of contiguous town-owned open space parcels. As you already concluded on April 11th, the correct decision on this application is a no-brainer. It must be denied. Thank you. Let me just say one more thing, David, because of your concerns about there being a local path for people to traverse by bicycle or pedestrians to get from one part of Gardner's Lane to the other. By the way, contrary to what was said, if you come into Gardner's Lane from Springs Fireplace Road, you can't go through anywhere. That's a discontinuous part as well. What you might do, what the town might do, and it would be actually a good idea, since there's a large tract of the Kooning Family Foundation property to the east of the town's own property and north of Gardner's Lane, is you might want to consider negotiating with them to allow a trail, a pedestrian and bicycle trail through their property, which would then be allowed, and it would be able to connect two portions of Gardner's Lane, and it would be very nice. People would be actually able to enjoy that path, whereas the existing path is a desert. It's clear cut. Look at the photographs. There's nothing there. No one's going to want to walk through there. It certainly would not be an enjoyable place to take a bicycle ride or a walk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Is there anyone else here who would like to address the board? We have any callers on the line?
One moment. We have no callers on the line.
Mr. Hammer, would you like to have an opportunity to rebut statements by the previous speaker?
Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor. Richard A. Hammer. After I hear the word liar after I speak, that I was misrepresenting everything, I think that is completely superfluous to this process. Essentially, what occurred here was a pretty simple error on an urban renewal map standard. It's 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. abandonment of the roads is a right under the UR map that is shared by everybody. So clearing those areas, revegetating, improving those are within your rights as a landowner. I think that the process here that we're, when this first occurred, the remedy was a modification of the UR map. That's what we're here asking the board to consider, and it was supported by the planning board. I think that is a mischaracterization. Other than that, any questions we can help answer.
Any questions from Mr. Hammer?
No.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Mr. Halsey, you'd like to make an additional comment?
Yeah, good morning again. Just Joel Halsey, for the record, I have never seen this map. I do not know that it's in the building department file. I do believe, Mr. Buda, that it is in the file. I have not seen this map. I do remember having phone calls with Ms. Glennon about taking access from Gardner's Lane. The extent of the conversation is this property is to be taking access from Gardner's Lane. When I visited the property, because she was getting calls she said from neighbors that this property they were not taking proper access. I went to the property. I was very confused by the fact as to what she meant by them not taking access from Gardner's Lane. And I said we would rectify it. When I went to the property, I assumed they were taking access from Gardner's Lane because I went down Gardner's Lane and that's how they were accessing the property at the time. They were accessing the property from Gardner's Lane. It just happened to be the wrong Gardner's Lane. This is not a nefarious, sophisticated builder. He is building properties in the area. He is building homes in the area, but he doesn't know the town code. He doesn't review the town code. He relied on me to do this, and I did it for him. And the burden falls on the people that were reviewing it, including myself. We are asking for a simple remedy to a problem that is easy enough. You'll be guaranteed a trail access. It is not a long driveway. And to the point of this property being clear cut, we were specifically said a stop work order will be issued on this property if you do not start taking access from the southern Gardner's Lane, which we had now at this point, that was the impetus of us having to clear the area to access the property. Did they clear a little too much probably for the access? Yes. But again, whether this is a desert area, this will all have to be revegetated at the end of the day. The property needs to be compliant with the revegetation. If we do put it within an easement, that 10-foot wide strip within an easement, the only area that will be cleared in the future is a 4-foot wide path. The rest will be revegetated and will be a nice trail for people to hike on. And that's a guaranteed trail rather than trying to negotiate a trail on somebody's private property.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Carried. Carol, read the next public hearing notice, please.
Please take notice that the town board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on June 15th at 11 a.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard at East Hampton Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, New York, to hear any and all persons with regard to a local law entitled, a local law providing for the amendment of Chapter 240 Vehicles and Traffic to amend Section 240-61, Schedule 11, parking prohibited at all times, to prohibit parking along a certain section of Queens Lane, East Hampton, and abstracted the local laws as follows. Parking prohibited at all times along the easterly side of Queens Lane, East Hampton, from its intersection with Accabonac Road and north to a northerly boundary of the Suffolk County Tax Map Parcel 300-162-27, and on the westerly side of Queens Lane, East Hampton, from its intersection with Accabonac Road north to the northerly boundary of Suffolk County Tax Map Parcel 300-147-926.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone here wish to address this public hearing? Do we have any callers on the line, Jason?
We have no callers on the line.
Entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Carol, if you read the last hearing notice, please.
Please take notice that pursuant to Section 247 of the General Municipal Law of the State of New York and the provisions of the East Hampton Town Code, the Town Board of the Town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing in the Town Hall Meeting Room, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on Thursday, June 15th at 11 a.m. or soon thereafter, as this matter may be heard, concerning the filing grant of scenic and conservation easement to the Town of East Hampton. Grantor Mohammed Grimmed Living Trust. It's a scenic and conservation easement dated March 27th at 425 Cranberry Hole Road near Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300, 128, 1, 32.1, and the reviewing agency is the ZBA.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone here wish to address the board on this topic? Yes, Jane.
Thank you again for the record. Jane Mearing, Ocean Lane, Amagansett. I know not many people really seem to get up at public hearings for accepting of scenic and conservation easements, and I'm not here to tell you not to accept it. But this one in particular seems to raise an issue that I just wanted to put in front of you. I'm familiar with this application because it was in front of the zoning board twice, and full disclosure, I did speak in opposition to the project, but I'm not here to relitigate that, and that's done. So this parcel is on a very dynamic part of our town. It's called out in the CART plan. And just from the TAM that was related to this application, I just want to read this. Parcels along the stretch of road have been known to lose feet from the dune crest within a single year. That was 8 feet, excuse me. The subject parcel is one of the most dynamic along the stretch of road. It talked about how this parcel lost 63 feet on the west side, and 70 feet along the east side in 2 decades. It's eroding three feet a year. And the TAM also went on, the erosion in the area is both chronic and episodic. The area is battered through seasonal storms that increase in both intensity and frequency due to climate change. So if you look at the beach right in front of where the scenic easement, I think goes to the bluff crest, that beach is almost gone. And so my question is, you have a scenic easement, conservation easement, but what is the access easement? How will access across the beach be protected as this bluff continues to recede and the beach, potentially is threatened? So I don't know if there's an answer there, but it's just something that I feel like going forward, because we have more and more of these types of developments, this is something that should be, I would hope, considered, and I don't know that can be adjusted here. But overall, I also do want to say that talking about whatever is granted on this property as a scenic easement, a scenic, is sort of ironic. What will be developed here obliterates the scenic value of this property. It really undermines the scenic value of the town-owned property next door. It is the scenic value that is degraded is incompatible with the SAS across the road. It significantly damages the view shed that the public sees. So, and I won't want to single out this property. More and more is happening along our shorelines. And I just want to say, I hope the town can do better around these things, as can property owners. Thank you.
There is an easement called a passing way easement that could have been requested.
Right.
There, and that would have been perpetuity, give public access to the beach that might be north outside the public trust doctrine. I don't know if that was requested here or not, but that's a way that, potentially boards can look at it in the future.
Right. I don't think you can go back and retrade something that's already been approved, right?
Sure.
But I thought it was just important to, think about that going forward because we're seeing more and more of these.
And the
types of
land
things.
use boards obviously have the ability to require conditions of approval that might include such an easement.
Yeah, I haven't heard those come up yet, so maybe it's something that come up. Thank you
maybe
so
should be
much.
out there. Thank you very much, Jane, for bringing that to our attention. Anyone else? Yes, David.
Good morning again, David Buda from the Springs. I watched the work session meeting on Tuesday. I have to commend Mr. Connolly for very quickly trying to succeeding in preparing a whole host of proposed resolutions for you to consider adopting to schedule hearings.
I'm sorry, David, is this relative to the public hearing on the grant of scenic easement?
No. Oh, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
we haven't gotten to public session yet.
I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself.
Are there any callers on the line? Anyone else wish to speak to this particular granting of scenic easement?
We have no callers on the line.
Motion closed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. We'll now move on to public comment, where any member of the public may address the board on any topic. Again, we ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mr. Buda?
Now I'm up at the right time. I watched the work session meeting on Tuesday. I understand the need to unscramble the egg that unfortunately occurred by not realizing that the Community Preservation Fund 2% realty transfer tax provisions have to be kept separate from the Community Housing Fund 0.5% supplemental real estate tax transfer tax provisions. I have to remind you that I brought this to your attention quite some time ago. Anyway, it's being done now. I appreciate that Mr. Connolly quickly prepared, staff prepared all the necessary resolutions. But let me just point out one thing. The proposal at this point is to put everything having to do with the Community Housing Fund into Chapter 112, which is titled Community Preservation. Well, the Community Housing Fund is not part of the Community Preservation Fund. So it's perhaps, if nothing else, the title needs to be amended to show that it serves two distinctly different purposes. Also, the language that you are proposing to designate that the recipient, the proper recipient for that 2.5% supplemental real estate transfer tax is the fund created by Chapter 162. Of course, you're about to revoke Chapter 152 or rescind it. So you really have to massage this whole proposal a little bit so that there's a time sequence that I know and understand what you're trying to do. Money is received up until the time that you make the changes and the reorganization of these chapters, that the funds go to the right place where you can spend them. I understand that. It just, let me reiterate, even though it's just virtual paper and virtual ink, it's really kind of silly to put 10 pages of code concerning the nitty-gritty of taxation, exemptions, and the whole process, duplicate that in our code when you can put the tax provisions of those two supplemental and the original real estate transfer tax into a separate chapter. It would be more elegant, it would be more convenient, it would be more efficient, and it certainly can be done. So you would have, in my opinion, the most efficient way to do this is to have one chapter that deals with the Community Preservation Fund, one chapter that deals with the Community Housing Fund, and one chapter that deals with the tax provisions that are in common to the two. And but there may be a fourth chapter that you need to do, but it just really take a look at this and see if this is the most efficient, effective, rational way to reorganize the unscrambling of the eggs that unfortunately occurred. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Anyone else wish to address the board? Public comment? Do we have any callers on the line?
We have no callers on the line.
We'll move on then to resolutions, and Councilmember Gonzalez, you have the first, I believe.
I do. Give me a second. Starting with Resolution 2023-877, it's approval of the warrant claims total $2,622,745.18, and the utility warrant totals $59,933.41.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, pass and carry.
Resolution 878 is a notice of public hearing to amend Chapter 225, Article 7, exemption for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers of the East Hampton Town Code. The town board recognizes the role of volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers in securing the safety and well-being of our communities. This code change would allow for volunteers with 2 years of qualifying service to apply for tax exemption, and the public hearing would be held on Thursday, July 6th at 2 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 879 is to accept undertaking and security for an urban renewal parcel 8 in SP 2-1. The applicant is Tuckaway Homes LLC, care of Zach Allentuck, and the Suffolk County tax map number needs to be amended. It's 0300 075 0212.009. And the security is in the amount of $16,500.
Second as amended.
In one spot, but there was two spots where it needed to be amended. It's 0300 075.
Still second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
880 is to accept a road widening easement in urban renewal parcel 21, EH2B, 125 Mulford Avenue, East Hampton. The grantor is Paul Porco. The Suffolk County tax map is number 0300-138-2-1.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
881 is to authorize payment for a past due invoice for Tarbert and Lester. And this is for they handled a matter pending in Southampton Justice Court in which the town attorney's office could not appear due to conflicts. And the outstanding invoice is from May 1st, 2022 in the amount of $33.42.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
2023-882 is approval of Loving Adventures LLC. It's for a seasonal special event permit. For 2023, it's at Atlantic Drive Beach in Amagansett. The date of operations for the commercial surf camp is from June 26th to September 1st, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. No weekends or holidays, maximum of 24 kids per 8 instructors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
883 is approval of various special event permits, and the first one is for Hampton's Pride. It's for the Hampton's Pride Tea at the Wainscott Green on Sunday, August 27th from 4 to 7 p.m. And the second is for the 24th Annual Shoe-In Warehouse Sale at the American Legion Post 419, Monday, August 14th through Saturday, August 26th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
884 is an authorization for payment for Whiteman, Osterman, Hannah for a past due invoice. And this is it's dated April 25th, 2023 in the amount of $43,899.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
I'd like to offer resolution 2023-885. This is the point seasonal lifeguard for June 2023, effective June 15th, 2023 through September 16th, 2023 for Brook, Bistry, and Bay lifeguard, hourly rate $17.25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
886 is the point seasonal lifeguard, effective June 16th, 2023 through September 16th, 2023, Francis Michaels, Advanced Ocean Lifeguard, hourly rate $18.25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 887 is accept the resignation of Tonya Reese from the Montauk CAC effective June 3rd, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed and carried.
Thank you, Tonya, for your volunteerism. Resolution 888 is authorized payment of 2022 invoice for the Highway Department for Opus inspection. We had an invoice dated for December 2022 in the amount of $5,142.50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
889 is the SEP bid EH23021. This is for the Springs Youth Association's IA sanitary improvements. This will be going to KJB Industries Incorporated. The bid was accepted at $147,741.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 890 is a clarified resolution 2019-1283. This is for the septic incentive program, amounts per system. We're Chapter 209 for the low nitrogen sanitary system program created on August 8th, 2017, sets of certain initiatives and incentives for replacement of existing sanitary systems. Resolution at that time was issued per septic system upgrade for advanced treatment technology. Therefore, now whereas the eligible property owners who upgrade with more than one sanitary system on a tax parcel now are eligible for one incentive per system upgraded per base of availability. And we are changing that to allow for all the systems that would be allowed for that incentive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
891 is the transfer from John Behan Memorial Reserve and budget modification in the amount of $2,526 from revenue to expenditure.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried.
And I have resolution 892. This is a notice of public hearing to amend our urban renewal map MN-2, URP 134 and 135. And this is where an application has been received for modification to the town's urban renewal plan. And the proposed modification has been reviewed by the planning board, and the planning board has recommended such modification to be considered by the town board pursuant to their memorandum dated October 28, 2022. Resolved that the town board will hold a public hearing on July 6, 2023 at 2 p.m. to consider the following. The urban renewal map number is 134 and 135 in MN-2. Relocate access to UR parcel number 135 via a right-of-way along urban renewal parcel number 134, providing for the abandonment of South Flag Street directly in front and adjacent to urban renewal parcel 135, as shown on the sketch. Proposed old filed map study number 1013 subdivision Montauk Beach Development Corp. MN2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
And I have a resolution 893, and this is to increase Cap Rangano LLC as environmental counsel for 2023 pursuant to resolution 2023-749. Rangano LLC was retained to provide legal services to the town for the fiscal year 2023. The legal fees and expenses were authorized not to exceed $75,000. Resolved that said legal fees shall be paid out of appropriate budget line outside professional in an amount not to exceed $150,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried.
I have resolution 894, and this is to amend stenographic services and justice court Spanish language interpreter payments. And this is resolved that the duly elected justices of the town of East Hampton are authorized to obtain Spanish language interpreters as needed for court appearances at a rate of $380 per diem of compensation and $275 half-day rate, $75 weekend rate, not to exceed the $380 full-day rate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 895 is to accept bid EH 23-023 East Hampton Airport mowing for 2023 that goes to Suburban Maintenance and Landscaping Incorporated at a total cost of $14,444 for 2 annual mowings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 896 is to accept bid EH 23-024 Fort Hill Cemetery internments and maintenance contract, Peter Joyce Seaside Landscaping and Pools Incorporated. And that is at 1-year cost of $27,040 with renewal option costs for year 2 of $27,986 and year 3, $28,966 and $1,100 per interment and $500 per incomplete interment. And I'm not quite sure what that means.
Either. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 897, notice to bidders, EH 23-028, purchase and delivery of toilets for prison cells. Bids available June 15th, 2023, and due back on June 29th, 2023.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 898 is a notice to bidders, EH 23-026, pavement markings at the airport. Bids available June 22nd and due back on July 13th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. 899 is notice bidders EH 23027 drones for the police department. The bid's available June 15th and due back June 29th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 900 is a budget modification for the building department, and that is moving from computer software in the amount of $5,000 to office expense in the amount of $3,000 and uniforms in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
Resolution 2023-901 is to accept a grant of scenic and conservation easement. We heard this today. The grantor is Mohammed Grima Living Trust. The location is 425 Cranberry Hole Road, Amagansett. The reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Resolution 902 is to amend Chapter 112, Community Preservation, and that is to hold a public hearing for such purpose on July 6, 2023.
2 p.m.
That's 2 p.m., yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried.
36.
Trying to get there. These pages are not turning so easily today for some reason. Resolution 903, amend Chapter 160, Community Housing Opportunity Fund. That would be for, we've also July 6th,
Yes, 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 904 is to appoint temporary office assistant in the building department, Jonathan Munoz.
Second.
All in favor? I'm sorry, that's at a rate of $21.25 an hour. Effective July 3rd. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 905 is to appoint part-time administrative assistant, fire safety inspection department, Brenda McPherson. And that would be at an hourly rate of $39.34.
Second.
Effective June 20th. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 906 is to authorize subcontract for Flight Aware. And that is not to exceed $25,000. And that's retroactive to November 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 907 is authorized supervisor to execute agreement with WEX Government Fleet Card Program. And this is to allow the, I think specifically for police department motorcycles, which take a higher octane fuel than our fuel facility has. So we'll be issuing a credit card for that fueling for those.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Carried. 908 is to authorize fund under Chapter 162 supplemental real estate transfer tax for the community housing as community housing fund.
So this is missing the resolve clauses?
We fixed it.
Okay.
So second as amended.
We have a second as
Does
amended.
that
All-
work?
All in favor?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed, carried. 909 is to amend Resolution 2023-70. And that is for the budget account, Carol Brennan's annual stipend for Registrar of Vital Statistics. That's effective retroactive to January 1st, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed, carried. Resolution 910 is to authorize stipulation of settlement between the town and a town employee and authorizing me to execute that stipulation on behalf of the town.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. 911 is to amend affordable housing lease agreement, Rebecca Ron and to Rebecca DeCipio.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Do we have any other resolutions or matters to bring before the board?
No.
Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss contracts, personnel, advice of counsel, and an enforcement action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Stay safe and be well, everyone. Shall we go immediately into exec? Does that work?